introducing you to this newer show that we put together called The Enlightened Passenger. The idea behind the show is simply asking guests what they would tell a stranger on a plane if they were sitting next to them and the stranger asked them for advice.
The scenery is passing very fast, but the seer is constant. The one who's seeing is the same.
Let me appreciate you for asking a question that I haven't been asked after 2,500 or so interviews over the years.
You have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle.
In 2008, Grant and I had been married for 4 years. I was pregnant with my first child. The economy was collapsing, and we were on the verge of losing everything financially.
So it's so exciting to be back with Anthony Trucks, and I say back because we've had Anthony on our shows and done interviews more than today in the past. And so Anthony, so excited to have you here. And with this show, Anthony, because it's a shorter show, we just kind of jump right in. So we go in with some pretty deep questions right off the top. One question I've been kind of sticking around the last week or so is the idea of legacy. And so I'd like to ask you, and I'll give some preface or context to this, but I hear a lot of people say legacy is what my intentional actions, and I get to determine my legacy. And I hear other people say you don't get to choose legacies, what people say about you either behind your back or when you're gone. I'd love to get your take on what legacy means to you.
I think a legacy is how you're remembered, which is interesting because you don't get a say in it, but you have a say in your actions, and the actions that you have are the things that lead to what people think of you or how they remembered when you're gone. So, yeah, I mean, some people may do some things that weren't intentional, like somebody's legacy. Like, for example, who was the girl with Clinton? I can't think of her name. You know what I'm talking about. Monica Lewinsky.
Yes.
She has a legacy she didn't choose, but it came from her actions, we'll call it. It was probably a really horrible thought, but it popped into my head. So I think legacy is how you're remembered. I do believe it's an important thing for your immediate lineage. I don't know if people are going to remember me. I'm not, Leonardo da Vinci. No one's going to remember me 100 years from now. But for those that are immediately past me, I want to make sure I'm remembered well.
Wow, I love that. And so how about this idea? And I know you've probably been asked this question a million times, but I love the fact that you always get a different answer, meaning as an interviewer, you always get pretty much a different answer. But what about this idea of success? We hear this big word all the time. And, we were just talking about off air. I just saw a feature of you in Success Magazine. Success Magazine's been around almost 100 years. So obviously this word has been a big word that carries a lot of weight, but people seem to define it differently. I'd love to get a feel for what success means to Anthony Trucks.
It means control, man. Just control. That's it. Success is control. Because I think people say, well, success is, money and stuff. And that's kind of cool. But I know people that are successful by that means they're not happy. There are some people that have, freedom. But freedom, you could be free to choose a job you absolutely hate. And so I found that for me, success is, do I have control? Can I get up today and do whatever I want? For example, whenever I have things with my children at their schools and they go, here's a mandatory meeting at 7:30 for a trip, my blood boils a little bit. Just for a split second, I go, I don't want someone telling me where I got to be, And so I found that for me, my version of success is based on the control to do what I want. Now, I may want to make more money to have more control in an area of maybe the trips I can take or what I can go and do. My kids are going to college. My oldest is taking off now. I want more control to travel less, to still make great income, to fund his college where need be, right? So there's areas where control may be elevated, but my version of success is based on my desires and my in complete control of my life.
So now, how about, I'd love to get a feel, and I know I haven't asked you this question before, so I'm curious your thoughts on this. I've heard you during talks talk about some moments that have changed your life at the core, but I'd love to know, is there and maybe we can take two perspectives, because I think I might know what it might be in the personal side. I don't want to assume, but can you think of what for you a defining moment has been, maybe on the professional side and the personal side, or are they the same?
No, not the same. I know professional defining moment was, I was at a moment in time when I had my gym business, my very first business after the NFL. I had come home and I had no idea what I was doing, like literally zero, never been in a business before, never owned one, nothing. I didn't even have a gym membership, and I opened a gym, right? And 9 months in, I'm looking at, I hadn't paid rent for 3 months because I didn't know what I was doing. And I got an eviction notice, and I had $16,000 I owed. I had $4,000 to my name. I had 2 weeks to come up with the money or they're going to evict me. I go bankrupt. I owed like $250,000. And so this defining moment was, do I do what my wife was saying, my best friend was saying, which was eat it, go bankrupt, figure it out the next stage, or do I fight to figure it out? And I dug in and fought one of the hardest emotional, mental, physical battles I've ever fought for a good, it took like a month to get it navigated, but I figured it out. I came out on top. A few months later, I'd made like 4 times more money per month than I was making previously. But that was a defining moment of whenever I'm faced with something, the moment that I choose to give up is when I actually lose. If I can lean in, I'll find something out that I didn't know. And that's what I did. I found some nuances, found the right support, found the right people. And that was, man, a humongous moment for me to understand how to approach the future of business. Personally, it's a lot of personal ones, man. A lot of personal ones. I'd probably say one of the key personal ones was whenever I'd gone through life and I'd had some ups, NFL stuff and gym, and figured these things out. And then I was like, not really enjoying life. And then I lost my adoptive mom to MS. And I believe in those moments, I had this kind of reflection back to the promises I'd made and who I planned to be when I was younger. And I wasn't being that human right now. And my mom, she didn't have the ability to move her body. MS took her ability to walk and move and run anything. But I was completely physically capable, yet living a not so great life. And so I had this internal moment of like, I will not be this guy in the future. So I made promises to her that I would fix my life. And when I did, I would find a way to help others do the same. And so that put me down this pathway towards figuring out where I was the biggest issue, because I believe we are all the common denominator in all of our problems. No matter what, whether we created it or we're allowing it, we're in that, we're the common denominator. And so when I could poke and see that in my heart, I go, oh, all right, here's the problems. Let's find out where you play the role. And then now you can work on that. And that helped my life change around.
Amazing. What about, this is the question I've been building towards. So I want to ask you, Anthony, this idea of, this life advice. We give life advice to people when they ask, I feel in some ways it's almost our duty to give life advice if somebody asks us for it. Now that's subjective. Like you said, nobody likes being told what to do. Power is not being told what to do. But having said that, I want to ask you, if you were on a plane sitting next to somebody and they leaned over, whether they know you're successful or not, but they leaned over and said, hey, I'm just starting my journey. I need some advice. Can you give me some advice? What do you think you might tell them?
I would say there's a couple things I say. I think the very, very first thing I would say is you have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle. And so the ego is your ego. It's the thing that doesn't want to see you sweat. The reason I would start here is because a lot of us already know some things that we should be doing, but we don't do them. Period. Whether it's a new task you should be doing or habit you should build, some you should stop doing, some you should start saying, what it is. But some part of our ego goes, oh, I don't do that. I don't want to have anybody see me be weak, so I don't do it. And the reality is that ego is damaging a lot of people's lives. And so if I'm sitting on a plane, I would say, hey, let's do this before we get in. Where is something somebody has said in your life that your heart knows is true, but your head gets mad to hear? And that leads it, because that's going to be a big glaring red flag if we got an ego popping up. Well, my wife keeps saying I do this, or my friend keeps saying I got to stop this, or my mom always told me. Beautiful. So why aren't you listening to that? Why is your heart knowing that's the thing, but your head won't let you do it? Because once we open up that, it's a floodgate. Because once you know what you really got to work on and what you really want, what you should do is much easier, because your gut will tell you, and let the gut guide you and you'll find your way.
Now, what about, as we start to wind down, who inspires you and why?
Future Anthony, because, I don't get everybody else's brains, man. Like I like you, we could have a conversation, but I'm never going to know the depths of your brain and how things may completely work or why you would see it that way. And so when I hear insight, even from people like my wife, I'm like, you don't get what I'm saying, right? So I want to make sure that when future me shows up at some point and goes, hey, what are you doing? He goes, hey, good job, right? Because I want to make sure I'm doing things that will serve him in the future better. But also, if I ever met that person, if we can have a conversation, I would understand what that person was saying at a different depth. I wouldn't for everybody else.
So let me ask then, Anthony, last question, maybe the most important. Maybe I call it the unofficial, but of course, it's for most people, it's how do I continue this going forward? How do I follow Anthony down the journey? So where would you send people if they want to continue on this path with Anthony Trucks?
Yeah, man. First, they go to Anthony Trucks on Instagram. It's at Anthony Trucks. If someone's in a realm of wanting to know their competitive advantage as like a coach in the world, go to anthonytrucks.com/quiz. And that'd be the probably 2 places to go.
Amazing. Well, Anthony Trucks, in a very short amount of time, you absolutely over-delivered. So thank you, my friend, as always. And I'll call it, with your permission, a to be continued.
Sounds good.
Hey, everybody. What did you think that episode with Anthony Trucks? Very powerful stuff indeed, isn't it? And just walking around the office here, our other office flooded. So I just thought I would get on the move here and move my legs a little bit to just share my takeaway from Anthony's video. So I thought Anthony's talk and his message was so powerful, but I just wanted to comment on one of the things he said, which I think for me really resonates. He talked about success and how he defines success. And he mentioned it's the ability to get up and do whatever he wants on any given day. And this reminds me so much of Bob Dylan's success quote that I read one time, where Bob Dylan said to him, a man is a success if he can get up in the morning and go to bed at night, and in between, he does that which he loves. And so I think that's so powerful, a way to frame this idea of success. And so I love that Anthony's definition of success is very similar. So having said that, the takeaway for me is to ask yourself, are you truly doing that which you love? And if you're not, even if you can't go full-time and all in on doing that which you love, how can you do it a little more often? How can you make it kind of what we like to call a side hustle in the online world? So how can you start doing more of what you love in the part-time so that eventually maybe you'll carry it over to the full-time? Write that down today and sit with that and visualize that and resonate with that and see what you come up with. See if some ideas come up for how you can start doing the side hustle a little bit more often, especially if it's that what you love, so that you can do what Anthony said, which is to get up every morning and truly do that which you love versus doing the things that maybe you dread. Hey everybody, Corey Poirier here. Thanks so much for checking out the latest episode of The Enlightened Passenger. And I want to thank you by giving you a gift. So if you can head over to peopleonplanes.com, again, peopleonplanes.com today, you can actually grab a copy of my top 10 insights guide. Now, when I say my top 10 insights guide, these are the top 10 insights that I've gathered during interviews with some of the world's top thought leaders. So in that insights guide, you're going to find insight by the legendary Les Brown, by Lisa Nichols, by the late Bob Proctor. I believe Jack Canfield's in there as well. And these are, again, the insights that it took me thousands of hours and thousands of interviews to gather. And I put them all together in a top 10 insights guide that I want to gift to you. So if you go over to peopleonplanes.com, and you can grab your free copy. If you scroll down, you'll see where it says grab your top 10 insights guide. And of course, on the website, you'll also find other things like the latest episodes of the podcast itself. So thank you so much for joining us on The Enlightened Passenger. I'm Corey Poirier. Until next time.